Hey everyone, welcome to Normal America's show. A late stream. I don't know how late I'm going tonight, but here we are. We're late. And it's all my wife's fault. That's why I'm late tonight. That's all right. She had some priorities. I don't know what is going on. My hat looks disheveled. I'm disheveled. I'm just a disheveled person here today. So apologies for that. I did get a haircut though. Beard's a little less scraggly today. I have a haircut story for you if you guys are interested. But I have fun wife stories and haircut stories today. So now the fun wife stories, just she's got one of these things called a cricket. You know what those are? It's like a I don't know, it's kind of like a printer, except it could print out vinyl and all sorts of different. You could hook it up to your computer and print out different shapes and fonts and whatever, and then make shirts and all of that good stuff. Well, her mom for her work needed her to cricket some shirts, and so that's why we're a little late tonight. We finished up late. I didn't do anything. I sit there and played chess on my phone. But Robert Whaley, what's happening, my friend? $2 says starting the grift early. Thank you, Robert. I'll take that grift. So we got some channel news here coming up. We'll save that for later in the show. I don't anticipate this will be a very long show, half hour to an hour, but talk a little bit about the left-wing insurrectionists in Columbia and other universities right now. Oh my God, our government money goes there, and then left-wingers commit insurrections going against these institutions that our government pays for. That's the rule, right? Isn't that it? So we'll look at a little of that, little the peaceful left. We'll look at some of that. My haircut story, I think it's a good one. There's a lot. Uh, there's a lot going on with this haircut. Um, I always get a number two on the clippers, just a number two in the beard, the mustache, my eyebrows get out of control. So smack them down, and then the old hair. Number two. That's it. All around. Takes maybe 5 minutes. And I go to the same place, There was a new girl that worked in there today, though. And so I called in and said, "Hey, can I come in at 1:30?" And they're like, "Yeah." So I always get there early. I get there early. And she was like, "Oh, my appointment after you canceled." And I think what was going on was she was newer. She did a fantastic job, by the way, so I have no complaints. But she was just like, "Yeah, I got time. Like, are you in a hurry?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Well, I'm basically finished with your hair." But then it was like, "Do you want to do like straight razor?" Sure, I say. So, evening everything out with the straight razor and all of that good stuff. Um, and I felt like a woman, which is like a weird thing. Like, I didn't know this. I'm a guy. The majority of my life, I've got my hair cut by like old men barbers or like ladies, but it's very much like catch that pirate game. Yeah, 3 minutes, you're out, right? And a little friendly banter. But this was like, okay, so we got this new cream that we're trying out, like to shave, and it's like exfoliating. So we're gonna put it on your face, and it's just gonna make your face feel so smooth. So first, let's put this hot towel on your face and just let it sit there for like 3 minutes. And it'll feel like you're being pampered, and your skin's just gonna feel incredible. And I'm just like, okay. And I'm just like, okay. I felt like a gay guy or a woman or something. I'm just like, pampered. Okay. She is very nice. She was, and did not charge me 1 cent more than normal. It was very weird though. It's like that's a very like I imagine that's what it's like when women go to get their haircut, and it's a very like almost intimate thing. It's very much like someone right in your face for a long time and like rubbing things on your face and like you know it's not so much it's very funny to me. It just is like I felt like emasculated. I felt like I need to be like turn the damn game on the TV or something like that. But she's a very nice girl, and I'm actually happy because I was having a rough day at work, so it was a welcome to distraction. Nico Pluto says BPF spoke very highly of Alex Stein. Well, I think very highly of BPF, and I'm very glad to hear he spoke kindly of me and Alex. I like Alex as well. Good guy. I'll have to check it out though. But when I was growing up, we used to have this barber in the little town that I grew up in that my grandpa took me to the first time, and I would go there every once in a while. And I remember the two things that they had. They always had here in Pennsylvania. We have the big buck contest where you can enter, and then when you shoot a buck, you enter the dimensions of the buck, and then whoever has the biggest one, like there's different categories. I think like biggest rack of the antlers and largest by weight, and then you win prizes. So they'd always each year they'd have a different pin for the big buck contest. So you'd sit in there and listen to all these old timers talk about hunting and stuff. And then they also had the Heinz pickle pin because Heinz is big in Pittsburgh, the ketchup company. And they had these little pins, commemorative pins that you put in your shirt that were just different pickles. Uh, I remember that as a kid. That was the old man that cut my hair. No manicure, pedicure. Nope, didn't happen. But yeah, now I feel like I can't just go get my hair cut again. I have to show up like every week and be like, could you please put some exfoliating cream? I'd really appreciate a hot towel treatment. But I would recommend going to this barbershop, George's Barbershop. It's very nice. Now, my wife's cousin also cuts hair in the same town, and she is absolutely fantastic. But I feel like I leave that. She cuts my son's hair and she cuts my wife's hair. I stay out of that business. So, uh, yeah, John Kerry did marry Teresa Hines into the Hines family. That's absolutely correct. So there it is. There's my big haircut story. Uh, Apologies yesterday for like sort of the downer stream. My work situation is crazy, and it seems like each day is another foray into the unknown where it just gets crazier and crazier. So prayers are appreciated for particularly the one person I mentioned yesterday. I was asking for prayers for two people. The one ended up very well. It was I don't think the person would mind me saying it was uh, a coworker of mine's younger person in their family who um, injured himself on a all-terrain an ATV, and ended up not being as serious as they thought at first. And so it required a lot of stitches, and it's going to require follow-up trips to the doctor. But pretty good. We're home already from there. So when I was talking last night, we thought that maybe that person was going to get sent to a more serious hospital. So that's very good news, and I appreciate the prayers. The other person, the person that I take care of, is not doing good, and the news gets worse every day. And maybe someday I'll talk at great length about all the stuff that's going on. But suffice it to say, it frustrates me uh, immensely because um, I feel that a lot of times people with disabilities, maybe they don't uh, have the same voice as other people. And so it seems to me like maybe some of the care that this person's getting in some of these medical facilities isn't top notch. And it frustrates me. And I continue to see a decline of a serious nature. I mentioned yesterday that maybe it's going to force my hand with a career choice here soon. So we'll talk a little about that at the end of the show. But having said that, I didn't get to follow a lot of the news the past 3 days. I really haven't. Um, so there's a lot of stories that look interesting to me. There is this House committee that thoroughly came out and apparently shown evidence now that the shooting of Steve Scalise was covered up by people at the FBI, that the intent from the get go was to not make this look political and instead make it a suicide by cop. And it just shows you the disingenuous nature of the Democrats that want to scream January 6th, January 6th. And now you see Trump's DC attorney being held up by Tom Tillis, a Republican, because of January 6th. These are they use that as an excuse. That one day where violence occurred, which by the way, the story is not as it seems, anyways. Hopefully, if Kosh Patel is anything worth his salt, that's one of the major stories that we'll get more to the bottom of. I'm not going to hold my breath though, but nonetheless, that old dead horse still being brought out, But when we saw actual left wing inspired violence, the FBI went out of their way to be like, well, you can't blame left wingers. Oh, HN's got a point. Well, the FBI, they had good reason. Tell me then, why didn't the FBI downplay the political ramifications of January 6th? Why don't they downplay the ramifications every time there's a white supremacist shooter? It seems like when there's a trans shooter, they're going to downplay and hold all that. When there's a Democrat shooter attacking Republicans, we'll downplay it because we don't want copycats. But if it's a right winger, oh boy, we'll amplify it. Put out that manifesto immediately. Start a task force to go after right wingers. No one's buying this crap. No one buys your BS anymore. This sort of stuff. Oh, trust us. When the FBI is trying to cover up and help Democrats, it's for noble reasons. I assure you, it's for noble reasons. That's what's going on. They intentionally downplayed. Nonetheless, I haven't read the source document, so I can't speak a lot to it right now. But I have seen the footage of Columbia and other universities just in the past 2 days where it looks like left-wingers are getting pretty violent on campus. Oh boy. And after all, I was told that we have to send our tax dollars to these campuses. We have to. So that means I'm being forced to send tax dollars to universities like Columbia where left-wingers in masks are now rioting. So let's see a little tape here. Let's go to the tape, shall we? Here's the insurrectionist. What's going on? Oh, Ticky Tack. Thanks for the $10. Says left-wing insurrectionists. I'm looking forward to Alex Jones tirades on this one. These damn insurrectionists, interdimensional demons coming from the pits of hell. I can't do a great Alex Jones. Love Alex, though. My friend BXBullet got to do Alex Jones' show the other day. Good for her. We'll talk a little about her as well. Let's see. Share screen. Thanks, Robert Whaley, for the gifted membership. Appreciate it, man. Here we go. Here's the left-wing insurrectionist. Looks like they're attacking security. Why didn't they shoot them? Right? That's how we handle that, right? Where was Officer Byrd to fire into the crowd there? Isn't that how we handle things? That's what Democrats cheered for on January 6th with Ashley Babbitt, right? That's how we handle these things. They're dangerously trying to rush past security. They could get to where people were innocent people to harm them. Better shoot them. That's the Democrat argument, right? That's the standard that's been set forth with Ashley Babbitt. They celebrated the officer that shot her. He's a hero. Now, how do you think it would look if they would open fire there? How do you think that would have looked? Do you think Democrats would say, hey, they were screwing around with law enforcement, with security? You're being disingenuous. This isn't similar to January 6th. When we murder protesters, it's always legitimate. No situation will ever be like that. We assure you, when we cheer for the murder of people that are protesting, it's always legitimate. How disingenuous of you to think that any 2 times would be the exact same. January 6th, they were looking for politicians to assault. Then why didn't they? They broke past police. They overwhelmed them. Police at one point had no choice but to open the doors because they were so overwhelmed. So if they were so gung-ho to attack politicians, why didn't they? We've had left-wingers. What was the name of it? Was it Riley Gaines? They literally locked her in a room. She had to lock herself in a room because they were trying to get to her. That girl they call Gun Girl, I saw mobs of people on campuses attacking her bus. Never once have I seen security open fire. Furthermore, I've seen left-wingers in state congressional buildings. I've seen them attacking the White House on May 30th, 2020. Never once did I see police open fire. Hey, HN says I'm debate broing right now. I don't have time for you tonight. I don't care. I no longer care about these bad faith people. No, that's not the same. January 6th was the darkest day in the history of our country, and any violence that was directed towards anyone there was deserved because they were trying to kill politicians. But in May 30th, 2020, when they were trying to break into the White House with Molotov cocktails hurting security, that was different. We're glad that the Secret Service didn't open fire them. When they attack right-wingers on college campuses, that's different. That's a different thing entirely. That's justified. You can't use violence against them. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of these people. I'm tired of them. I just don't care anymore. The vice president was there. Who was in the White House on May 30th, Michael? 2020. Who was in the White House? So shoot them, right? It's always different. It's always different. We started off, this is how ridiculous this is. We started off talking about, now we have a congressional committee that's like, the FBI literally covered up the political motivations of the Steve Scalise shooting. And right out of the gate, it's, well, they did that for a good reason. They must have done that to stop copycats. That's why they did it. I saw Ashley Babbitt's family got a settlement. Here's the thing. I'll be straight up with you. I've talked about this. I don't really care about the Israel-Palestine thing. The White House on May 30th? What? Huh? Right. You have no clue, Michael. Of course you don't. How about when you're done watching me tonight, and I do thank you for watching me, but when you're done watching me, why don't you go do your homework and look up May 30th, 2020? Why don't you look that up? When people weren't unarmed, they were using Molotov cocktails, 50-something Secret Service agents harmed as they attacked the White House. Trump had to be moved to a bunker. Democrats called him a bunker boy and made fun of him. Joe Biden made fun of Trump a couple weeks later, told him to go back to his bunker. Jess Gerald, member for 6 months, says, I blink and life fast forwards. Where the heck does time go? Jess Gerald, my goodness. Where did it go? You spent it with a handsome man like me. 6 months. Jess Gerald, one of the most generous donators to my channel. And not only that, I shout out to Jess Gerald. He's also helping other streamers in the conservative space. And I have to say, it's one thing. A lot of people talk a big game. And thank you, Jess Gerald, donates 50 memberships. Thank you so much. But to see people that are actually trying to financially support people in the conservative space, it's humbling, and it's like the exact sort of thing that we need. All of us have different skill sets and different things that we could bring to an ability to help drive the country in a better direction. And, you know, you see these lefties, we don't got USAID. Our tax dollars ain't going to people like me. So to see people step up to the plate and offer donations, not just to me, but other great conservative streamers, it's amazing. Bandit 848, thanks so much for $2. By the way, great picture there. Love me some Smokey and the Bandit. Says, hope things are well, Rob. Thank you. They're all right, man. They're doing all right. Tomorrow's going to be another slog, but it's all right. But yeah, Jess Gerald killing it. He's donated a ton of money to the channel. When the lefties get violent, it's always okay. It's not a big deal. It's not indicative of the left. Anyways, the Israel-Palestine conflict. I care. I don't want to see conflict anywhere if it was up to me. I don't. I feel terrible anytime any innocent person, man, woman, or child, especially child's killed. Do I believe that Israel's bombs have killed children? Yeah, it's terrible. But I believe it's a very complicated situation, and I think the United States shouldn't be involved except trying to broker a peace deal. We should stop sending money to both sides of the conflict. I saw today it was reported some 50 U.S. service members were harmed. You remember that pier that Joe Biden was building on the Gaza Strip? We built that pier that lasted like what, 60 days or something? Cost $200 million. One service member died. I mean, it's not funny. It's gallows humor. I mean, for something we knew was a joke that wasn't going to work. Oh, well. Only by the grace of God didn't they use the death of that soldier as an excuse to enter an actual full-fledged war. Yeah, India Pakistan could get real bad real quick. And if that goes nuclear, it's not just going to affect that region. I remember back when I debated 2002, 2003, we used to talk about that all the time in debate as the most likely scenario for nuclear war, Indo-Pak. Back when Musharraf was there and in Pakistan. Um, when I hear people say Israel's going too far, you're probably right. My concern though is we should stay out of it. But if I'm pressed to go further than that, I've talked about this before. Objectively, Israel's probably going too far. But what would you do if it was your kid? If my kid gets murdered, I'd probably go too far. If my family got murdered on October 7th at some music festival, I might go too far. Objectively, as an outsider, you're like, listen, you can't just wipe people off the face of the earth because some terrible attack happened. But if it's you and it's your loved ones, you might say, I disagree. Oh, Dave Portnoy. Yeah. I'm sick and tired, though, of the special privileges that Israel gets where that's the one country you can't criticize or any garbage. But and I criticize that. Yeah, the Dave Portnoy thing. Yeah. Dave Portnoy's going scorched earth to ruin people's lives because someone put F the Jews on a board in one of his bars. So you mean to tell me the girls that do bottle service that's just trying to get a tip, that the people they thought were going to give them tip was like, hey, can we put something mildly offensive on this sign? And they were like, sure, I don't care. I just want a tip. Now we're going to fire those girls and ruin their lives for what? I'll bet if it said F all white people or F Christians, Dave Portnoy wouldn't have went scorched earth. I'm tired of the fact that even Republicans, even some people I like, are pushing forth legislation like we're going to criminally punish anyone that supports the BDS movement. Ridiculous. Or potential hate speech laws that you can't criticize Israel. Absurd. And it has nothing to do with my feelings on whether or not Israel is right or wrong in that conflict. Too much control over our country and the politicians of our country. It's absurd. Having said that, these like radical Palestine left wing insane people. I mean, I tangentially follow a little bit of the drama that you see online, but like the Ethan Klein versus Hassan thing, I'm not particularly fans of either of them. Uh, I would say both of them now talk about politics a lot. Ethan, I give more leeway because I don't think he's exclusively like a politics person like Hassan is. But neither of them do I think are particularly people that I like, or for that matter, uh, talented political debaters. Bandit, thank you so much for another $2. Says Dave Portnoy doesn't understand how hammers work. I saw that. I showed my father-in-law that he got a kick out of it. Tristan for $5. Thank you. Says, just got here. Did you heard Alex and Andrew gave you a shout out tonight? I heard. I did. I'll have to check that out. They're both good guys. I'm very appreciative. I didn't know Andrew was doing Alex's show tonight, though. Pretty cool. So, anyways, to wrap up this point, I think I've been pretty clear of my disgust that I think that it's like you can't criticize Israel and stuff. I think I've made it clear that my position is I just don't want to be involved. I would think that if I choose to heavily invest time into looking at the Israel-Palestine conflict, that I would probably come to a conclusion that's more well-informed about which side's more correct, that we both know the truth, that both sides suck, but you'd probably be able to say one side's more correct than the other, or this specific action's right or justified and this specific action's wrong, maybe. I don't have the time to dig into it that much. And from my perspective, I just don't want us involved. And I want us trying to solve with a peaceful resolution as best as possible. And I think that Israel has way too much influence in our country. But the lefties and like watching this Hassan Ethan sort of drama, like it's incredible watching people like on the like left-wing Palestine cheer side, like the radical Antifa type, progressive type lefties, and now they're conflicting with sort of the more corporatist establishment type Dems, like your Destiny type people. Ethan Klein's sort of in that, and it's incredible. As much as I might dislike these establishment corporatist type Democrats, like it is insane how the violent left, the progressive, the cultural Marxist left, they'll eat them alive just like they would right wingers, just like they will Trump supporters. I saw that Mike from PA guy that was basically like, we need to pay people to bloody their mouth. I don't know, something like that, some sort of allusion to a call to violence. I saw, apparently there are people like calling Child Protective Services on Ethan over this stuff. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. There are people that I really don't care for that I've involved within the political space. Never once would I suggest trying to ruin their life by affecting their children like that. That's crazy. And so when you see these left-wingers on college campuses, I've argued that, like, listen, I'm apprehensive about defunding universities because of anti-Israel rhetoric. I am apprehensive. I think we should just defund all of them. But I do feel like the one issue you can't have is anti-Israel stuff. But don't get it twisted. These aren't just people that are like, oh, we just have some criticisms. That's all. It's the same sort of people you saw protesting right-wing speakers for years, engaging in violence, intimidation, hecklers' vetoes, surrounding people, assaulting them. And then when we say, we don't want people like that in our country that aren't citizens. If you're here in a student visa, see you later. The left will scream, how dare you? How dare you do that? That's anti-free speech. The truth is, no one will make you more anti-Israel than the vehement Israel defenders, the Dave Portnoys of the world. You look at them, you're like, God. And no one will make you more anti-Palestine than these insane lefties, the pro-Palestine people. I have nothing in common with either of those groups. So when I see these lefties on campus, remember, it'll all be whitewashed later. All you have to do is imagine for 1 second at a place like Yale or Harvard or Columbia. Imagine right wingers, imagine MAGA people taking over libraries and buildings. And how do you think that's going to work? Probably tomorrow we'll talk a little more about race stuff with this woman that's raising all this money. And I don't know that I want to broach that. And I'm sure we'll talk more about the state of Israel there as well. As always, most of these groups, even the ones you don't like or ones that behave in what you think are reprehensible ways, sometimes there's kernels of truth in where their criticism begins. And certainly there are people that I don't like that are vehemently anti-Semitic, but there is truth to the fact that it's like, why can't you criticize Israel? I'm not that person lighting fires at a library in Colombia with my face in a mask, chanting from the river to the sea. That ain't me. I'm just saying, like, hey, man, let's stop sending money to Israel. How about that? Or I'm saying, hey, man, why is it that so many Congress people are advancing like anti or like hate speech laws against Israel? Why is that? Why is that the group that seems like the most aggrieved? You can't talk about that group, or that's a hate crime. Yeah, a lot of the Jew hate is out of control too. Yeah. I don't dislike someone just because they happen to be of Jewish ethnicity or faith at all. No. Shiloh Hendricks fundraiser hit over 700,000. Yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We will. So, but that's it. I just saw that clip and I was like, that's interesting. Isn't that weird? Left wingers attacking security and stuff, not one gun drawn. What if they started shooting tear gas at them like they did January 6th? What if they did that? You think they'd have got more violent? Radical Coder says, have you changed, evolved in your anti-critical race theory stance since our conversation a few years ago? I don't remember the conversation. I'm still pretty much anti-critical race theory. So I don't think that my thoughts changed that much on it. But now I would stay longer tonight, and but I didn't read a lot of the news. So we're gonna do a little channel update stuff. What's up, Mr. Ubercross? Thank you so much. Also incredibly generous to my channel. Also happens to be someone who's I think been very helpful to me with some of my legal argumentation as a layman that I am. Says just so we just stop talking about jurisdiction. Now I sent Beansco a message. He said he'd be willing to roll back that debate, but he wants a moderator. And I said, sure. When do you want to do it? And he hasn't got back to me yet. So we'll get it done again. We'll talk about jurisdiction again. I think the subject is boring, but the meta conversation is interesting to me. Yeah, John, I missed that. Several people told me Andrew was talking me up on Alex Stein's show. Andrew's a good dude, man. We'll talk a little about Andrew and stuff here in a second. Well, probably not much. Andrew's a good dude. Rachel's good. You don't want to talk about Jews, you clown. What do you want to talk about, Jews? Let's do it. What do you want to talk about? There's something to say? You big Sandy Koufax fan? What do you want to talk about? Who's your favorite Jewish actor? Is that what you want to talk about? Just because people don't have an obsession with a hatred of an ethnicity doesn't mean that they are unwilling to talk about valid criticisms, particularly of a political nature, which I think I've done. Love me some Mel Brooks. I think I've done a lot in this very video. But it's interesting to see how it's never enough. It's never enough for the nameums. Never enough. You got to talk about it more. That wasn't enough. More. Don't have time for it tonight. Come back some other day. So I had mentioned at the yesterday's show, or yesterday's update. I don't know. I have to be very careful about what I could talk about. For those that don't know, I saw a couple people in the comments that were asking what I do. My job is I do home health care with adults with disabilities, so autism, Other diagnoses you see are like bipolar, intermittent explosive disorder, dementia, others, but mostly people that you would consider intellectually disabled. John Ruck, thanks so much for $2. Says Grift, all we could give a buck or two. Let's go. Thank you. I appreciate it, John. Jess Gerald, thanks so much. Another 50 gifted memberships. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Really do. You guys are the best. So I did the stream last night where I was talking about that. I'll just be vague, but I'll say this. One of the things that's occurred is that there are different types of bad things that could happen to people's health. Some of those might be physical. Some of those might be illness. Some of it may be acute. Some of it may be chronic. Some of it might be psychiatric. And unfortunately, a person that I deeply care for is now, it's compounding in a day-by-day issue. And I don't know if I will be in the position to provide care for that person any further. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on, I guess, how you look at it, I'm uninterested in working in this field anymore if I can't be with the person that I've spent the majority of this past 14 years with. I don't have it in me anymore. I just don't have the heart to start anew. I don't. So I'm very much in flux. I do not know what my job's going to look like a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now. I don't know, right? This is going into last night. So there is sadness, first and foremost, primarily for a person who to me is basically a member of my family, who I've spent literally a third to a half a week every single week, except if I take vacation, for 14 years with. And to watch them struggle with their health. And then on top of that, added salt into the wound is I'm supposed to be the person that he looks to help take care of him. And I there's nothing I could do. It's out of my field of control. It's of the nature that it's not something that like, hey, Rob, could you do the Heimlich maneuver and solve this health crisis? It's not of that nature. And so that's a lot of like, it's very much depressing for me. It sucks, right? But we talked about that last night. Let's table that. It also is a weird spot because I have a family. I have to provide for my family, and I don't know what my future looks like as far as my job. This job that I have, the credentials for it are like basically you need a GED. I make basically $21 an hour is what I make. But I make decent money because I work 90, 100 hours a week. Black Jaden, thanks so much for the membership. Thank you. Says, hopefully this isn't bad news. I guess it depends on how you look. It's bad news health-wise, but I'm still appreciating those prayers, and nothing's final. So, Mr. Ubercrust, thank you, man, donating 20 memberships. I appreciate it, man. And then Canisius, 4W for $2 says, it's 2020 all over again. The campus of love. They're back, baby. The party of love. Showing it as always. John Ruck for $2 says, bravo, Jess Gerald, you're amazing, brother. Couldn't agree more. And Bandit again, thank you. Donates 5 memberships. Thank you. That's HN's right, is for being the goober that he is. 21 an hour living in Redneckistan is good money. That's true. But I try to provide a quality of life for my wife and my son that we've expected. We ain't certainly living high on the hog or anything, but we're not missing any bills. I don't know if you can tell I ain't missing many meals. Achilles, $3 for a super sticker. Thank you so much, man. Always appreciate it. So with my future going on with my job, I don't know what that's going to look like. It's out of my hands. One of the things when you do, and this is being very vague, but this is just true of this line of work. Any sort of healthcare job, particularly when you're working in a person's home, you're not guaranteed employment. Like, for example, the idea with what I do is you want to work yourself out of a job. The idea is to help these people with intellectual disabilities have a meaningful life in their own terms of what meaningful is. And ideally, you could help them progress to this spot where they don't need 24/7 care. Maybe they only need someone stopping in 8 hours a day. That's the idea. And so it's a very weird line of work where you're basically trying to work yourself out of a job. But it could also happen the other way, where maybe someone's health becomes critical to the point where you're unable to provide that sort of care that they need in their home anymore. And now maybe they have to go to a more traditional medical facility. Mr. Ubercrust, thank you so much, man. Incredibly generous. Another 20 memberships. Thank you. And so I don't know what my future holds with my job. What I can say is this, I'll be vague about this. Um, I think that there are some opportunities that maybe I'll be more at liberties to talk about in the near future. And I will just say that I'm not going to go into detail about any of it, even if it occurs. I will be transparent anytime I'm in a working relationship with someone. So let's say theoretically, Glenn Beck's team would call me and say, "Hey, Rob, we'll happily pay you a sum of money to do videos on our channel." I wouldn't tell you how much money I'm being paid, but I would say, "Hey, full disclosure, I'm now a member of Glenn Beck's team. I'm paid by Glenn Beck, or the Blaze, I think it's called." By the way, that's not what this is, just a hypothetical. No one at the Blaze has called me or anything. But that I think that, and I think that's fair for transparency, right? On one hand, it's no one's business what the exact contract that you sign with someone is, right? But on the other hand, I think in the interest of transparency, if you're listening to people talk politics, it's fair to know if they're getting paid by an organization or some to give their opinion. That was my opinion on Progressive Victory Pack. Canisius 4W, thanks again for the $2. Says, "I'll be praying for you, Rob. Tough situation." Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. It is not today was worst news, the worst news I've got so far regarding health. So, but thank you. So anyways, I'll just say the only time I'll mention is there is a potential for me to maybe be working through with another group here soon. I'll give some details on it, but the only thing I would say financially about it is it's not going to, no one's paying me to completely replace the income I would lose if I lose my job. Um, I don't like to talk about finances a lot, but I would say that I probably clear about $85,000 a year because making $20, $21 an hour because of the crazy hours I work. Like, I know it sounds ludicrous, but I'm telling you, I average like 85, 90 hours a week, which, to be honest, the Trump, like, no tax on overtime would probably, that's one of the things that would financially, in this current job that I have, financially, that would, I mean, I'd be looking at like an extra $1,000 a paycheck, probably. Like, no joke. That's how much I pay in tax, because you actually pay more in taxes on overtime. And I usually have more overtime hours than regular hours per week. So there's a potential for some sort of supplemental income to be coming in. Now, what does this mean? Why am I saying this? Because I think this isn't written in stone, but I think what's likely to happen is I'm going to become a full-time streamer. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that um, at this point, the only thing keeping me in my current job is my love for this one individual that I support. And I think the writing's on the wall that it's more likely than not that I will be incapable of continuing that, and it's out of my hands. And I have to be willing to make a decision um to provide for my family. And I can't be in limbo for the next 7, 8 months. If I have an opportunity now where I could work with an organization and try to grow my channel at the same time. And I don't know that that opportunity would persist if I try to stick it out 6, 8, 12 months only to be told, "Hey, man, that's it. You can't work here anymore." By the way, they wouldn't say that. My company's not heartless. They would tell me that I have to work at another house, which I would be unwilling to do. Robert Whaley, thanks so much for the $2. Says, "Hit the like button, you heathens." So, as sad as this health situation is, um, everything in life, you know, can have two sides. And if I'm trying to be an optimist, there is a door opening, I think. And I think that it's not the Daily Wire. Don't worry, it's not the Daily Wire. I think I'm not going to go into details, but I think that The group that I would work for, it's a group that you all would know, and I think that you would 99% of you would be like, "That's awesome." The only ones that wouldn't would be people like HN and stuff. Anyways, we'll cross that bridge if it comes. Nothing's written in stone, but I think that I'm likely within the next couple months to be a full-time streamer. So that means that I will be not only putting content out more consistently, probably with exceptions. Obviously, life comes at you, and like, my kids first t-ball practices tomorrow. There'll be t-ball games, there's vacations and things like that, but basically it would be normally scheduled time doing shows 5 days a week. In addition to that, it'll give me more time to prepare. I'm not going to be working 100 hours a week, so if I have time to come up here before I'm streaming and actually do research and stuff like maybe I used to be, I think that it would be um, better content for the show. Thank you so much, Bandit, for $2. Says, whichever way it goes, we have the best for you. Thank you. Galil, thank you so much for $5. Says, nothing lasts forever. Things end, things begin. Here's to the future. Thank you, Galil. Absolutely true. So, what I'm going to do is, once I make this decision, which I'd say there's a 96.3% chance that I'm basically going to become a full-time streamer within the next 3 months. And I'm going to, unfortunately, pull the plug probably on the job that I have now. I it's my ability to continue that will be contingent on how much support I get from an audience. If I end up making where it's like, look, I'm only making $300-400 a month streaming, then I'm going to have to get another job. But I've saved up money, and I think that now is the best time, with maybe an opportunity for other sorts of supplemental income. I think now's the key time where I could actually try this. And so I don't want anyone to ever donate to me to put themselves in hardship. I don't want people to feel like I don't appreciate you if you're not donating. I don't want that at all. I don't care if you've ever given $10,000 to me, or if you've given $2, or if you've given none. I do appreciate people. I really do. And look, if I was a millionaire, I would love, like my friends like Drone Tech Politics or Sarah Kane or Let's Be Frank or Aircraft Sparky, streamers that aren't making big bucks. I'd love to be bankrolling them. I would, but I don't, and I can't. And so I don't expect that from other people. But to those that can give, I will be appreciative. And I think that, we're going to fill it out. And I think that, I'm going to give it a good shot for 6 months to a year, and we'll see what happens. If it looks like I'm not, after putting in that time, that I'm just not successful enough to do this, then I'll look to getting another job. Now, that wouldn't mean I'd be done streaming. I'm not saying that. But that might mean I have to go back to more of a schedule that you see now, where I'm working a job full time and then streaming is my secondary thing. Zen's Forehead says, to your continued success, brother, for $5. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Always appreciate you, Zen. Corey Barton for $2 says, you're in Big Soda's thoughts and prayers. It is not Big Soda that will be paying me, but thank you, Corey. Mr. Ubercross, thanks again for $20, says, I think getting some partnership that reduces the variance of risk of streaming in order to expand your channel, that makes sense. Even if it doesn't replace your income off the bat, it's a calculated risk. That's absolutely the case. And that's what I've said for a long time. If you just jump into streaming as your sole source of income, like both feed in, the problem is I'm at the whims of YouTube, right? YouTube tomorrow could be like, channel banned. Then what? What do I tell my wife? What do I tell my son? Oh, sorry, I quit my job to do this YouTube thing, and 2 weeks in, I got banned, and now, and look, I love my audience, I do, but let's be honest. If all of a sudden you didn't see me for like a month on YouTube, a lot of you would be like, "Oh, I didn't even know Rob got banned," and I would be over on Rumble with 40 people watching. It's just the way it works. I'm the same way. I'm the same way. You get used to watching something on a platform like YouTube, and when someone gets banned, you'll be like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that guy's videos in a while. I wonder what happened to him. That's just the way it works. Cole Vic, thanks so much for the $10. Says, you seem like a good dude, Rob. I'm sure God has a plan for you. I know you'll do honest and great work, whatever you do. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Jess Gerald for another $10. Thank you, man. Says, I have a dream of Rob Nord going 4 hours on the Rogan Experience. Let's put it to I would love it. I really would. Josh Earsley, thanks so much for $10. Says it's going to work for you. I'll pitch it when I can. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it, man. Corey Barton for $2 again says Big Soda Network featuring Rob Nord. Just sit here drinking delicious sugary beverages the whole time. So as sad as the circumstances of me leaving my job are, one last thing I'll say, me leaving my job does not mean I will be leaving the relationship with that person that I've supported for 14 years. At this point, that person is family to me. I am closely associated with their family, and I would still be in that person's life, but I'm not going to be there 100 hours a week. I can't do that. And it might be a situation where it would be visits to a facility as opposed to me providing service for 100 hours a week. So I don't want anyone to think, well, to be honest, I don't mean this rudely, but I guess I don't care what people think on that sort of stuff. I know that the person I support will know what's in my heart, and I know his family will know what's in my heart. And I guess that's what's important. But just to let you all know, it would not be a situation where I would just say, well, that's it, I wash my hands. I'm not saying that. But when it comes to, it's tough, man. It's tough. Healthcare is brutal because you get attached to people, and then maybe you'd be like, hey, I want a raise. And it's like, yeah, there's no raise coming, man. You're not going to make very good money, but you don't want to leave because you feel like you're leaving these people that need you. And so it's a very difficult situation, but I think my hands at this point, it's sort of taking it out of my hands because I don't know that I'll be able to provide the care necessary. Vita for $2 says, you're too talented to be forgotten, Rob. Thank you, Vita. HN, thank you for $2. Thank you. Says, I was put in timeout 3 times today. Free speech. First off, I put you in timeout once. So one of the mods did it 2 other times. Second, thank you for the money. And third, putting someone in timeout in your own channel isn't an anti-free speech issue. That would be the equivalent if you come to my house and you're cursing and swearing in front of my child and I say, hey man, could you stop swearing or I'm going to ask you out. You wouldn't be like, oh, free speech. Free speech would be if I say, you're not allowed to say this anywhere. You have your own channel. You could talk all you want. Is it anti-free speech that I timed out the guy that was yelling about the Jews? Or should I just leave someone like that rant and rave and get my channel banned? So whatever. Mr. Ubercross, thank you again for $20. Says, I left my stable job at a law firm to start my business. It was scary with 3 kids. My wife had faith and supported me. It's been a blessing to take that risk. 10 years in the past, and it was the best decision for my family. Thank you, Mr. Ubercross. Yeah, I would not make a decision like this without my wife, who supports me in all ways. Every little bit of any enjoyment that you've ever gotten in this channel is only possible because of my wife, because we have operated as a team, because she has taken the brunt on childcare responsibilities, maintaining house responsibilities. Oftentimes, this is my hobby. This is fun for me. Some people play video games. This is what I do. I don't play many video games, right? So I'm up here doing my hobby while my wife's downstairs doing dishes. So it's my job first and foremost is to be a provider. That's it. No matter what. I don't want to be one of these people, like friends I've known in my life that are like, hey, I got kids and a wife, but I'm going to quit my job because I'm in a band. And then they can't provide for their family. I never want to be that. That my first priority is to be a provider for my family. And my wife knows that. And we came to this decision together. So I think that we're both in agreement. And one of the things that you have to think about is, what kind of father am I going to be if I'm gone 100 hours a week, every week? Every week. I go in Saturday at 2 p.m. and I come home Wednesday at 2 p.m. What's that going to look like when my son's playing baseball? So I think this is an opportunity. I might not, at least initially, be making even near the money that I'm making at my current job, but I think the benefits, the upside far outweighs the downside. So we're willing to take that risk together, my wife and I. So thank you to Mrs. Knorr, to Courtney. Ragnar, thanks for the $2. I appreciate it. I really do. But So that's sort of the update in the channel where I will be looking for you all's support, and we're going to make a go of it, and we're going to see if we can do it consistent. And I think that I'm going to bet on myself that if I'm able to put in more time, more consistency, I'm going to be working with a good group of people, and I think that it's going to grow my channel substantially. That's what I think, and I think that I'll be able to provide content that people appreciate, and hopefully that'll show in sort of the donations I'm getting, and we'll get at least close to breaking even to what I had. That's the goal, to be close to any sorts of supplemental incomes I have, plus then my streaming, to be close to making what I was making when I was full time, uh, double time, basically working 90 hours a week. So, Bandit 848, thank you again, man, for $5. Says, not that you're doing something wrong, but you answer to God, not random a-holes in the internet. Basically, who are they to judge you? They don't know you. I know that, but one thing I will say, and that's absolutely true, but I hope that I've been at least a reasonable ambassador for healthcare in IDD for adults with disabilities, because I think that it's incredible work. I have strong disagreements with a lot of things that occur, and maybe someday, long after I am done in this field, I'll talk about some of the disagreements I have in regulations and how money's spent and things of that nature. But the people that I've worked with, particularly the ones that I spent long term with, have really changed my life in a positive way. And I don't want um, to leave a sour taste in people's mouth thinking, oh, Rob's saying that it's too hard and quit, and it's not lucrative enough. And all of that's true, but it's also not true. It's not the whole story. It's I don't know how much more I could do. That's ultimately what my decision is. And you're right. I'm not saying that I need people to believe me. They can think what they want of me. You're absolutely right. I say this all the time. At the end of the day, the people that I'm concerned about judging me is God, is my family, and is myself. When I put my head down on my pillow at night, I know me. I know when I ought to be ashamed, and I am many, many times. I fail a lot. In many ways, I've been a very sinful, scummy person in a lot of ways. But I know, and God knows, and my wife knows, and my son will know, and those are the people that ultimately that I'm concerned with judging me. But I'm also a bit of an egomaniac, so I want people to like me online as well. Gizmo, one of my oldest supporters. Thank you, Gizmo. I hope everything's going well. For $20, thank you. Says you'll land on your feet. Always put family first. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Gizmo. I appreciate it. Uh, Max, Max, thank you, man. Max has been very generous in reaching out to me in many ways too. Yeah, we'll talk soon, Max. Um, we will. It's uh sometimes I feel like people are overly generous, and I'm hesitate to because I don't want to let people down and feel like that I've taken too much from people. Um, I still feel bad that I don't stream to Twitch, because I feel like that there were people that donated subscriptions to me, and then I got banned for 30 days, and I cheated them out of whatever that subscription cost was. They gave me money expecting to see a month's worth of content, and I was unable to provide it for them. Now, I hope that they didn't continue to subscribe to me once I was like, okay, I'm not streaming here anymore. But, well, Connor had something to do with it, right? Yeah, I could give it back when I'm rich. That's absolutely true. So, uh, hopefully, I'll have more details in the coming weeks about sort of the exciting group that I could be working with. There's Nico Pluto for $20. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Really do. Always appreciate you, Nico. Uh, I think you guys are going to be pleasantly surprised. I think it's going to lead to more views for me, and I think it's going to lead to collaborations. And I think that the nature of it will be that I think that I will instantly, exponentially increases my chances to be on places like with Alex Stein, Piers Morgan, those sort of platforms. I think that I'll have Tim Pool. I think I'll have a very good shot of having a better relationship with those sort of groups. Uh, and my philosophy is that my concern, obviously, first and foremost, is my family and providing for my family and all of that. And it does become a little different because right now, streaming's just a hobby to me. It's not my job, right? Any money I make here is absolutely, I'm grateful for and welcome. But if I lost my channel right now, tomorrow, and kept the job that I have, I would still be able to provide for my family. This is a hobby. Once it becomes your job, things are different. That doesn't mean that you're selling out. It just means maybe you're not so quick to drop certain slurs or whatever that maybe you wouldn't have cared about before. You know, you have to be thinking like, hey, I can't be doing things, try to avoid using terms like the word that starts with C and ends with D that we referenced the pandemic about. Previously, it'd be like, I don't care. Maybe it means you're a little, when you're on with certain people, you're a little more hesitant to misgender someone because you can get banned. Canisius, thank you so much for $5. Says, Andrew Wilson has the crucible clue. Destiny has the DG cheers. Now it's time for the big soda boys to lift up Rob. You can do it. Take my pins. Thank you. We're normies. Rob Nor calls the normies, right? The Norbiters, right? That's what we call them, the Norbiters, right? So, yeah, hopefully I'll have more news. I will say this: part of a precondition of me working with anyone is having editorial control over what I say. So I would never work with someone that tells me you have to say that. Well, that's not true. I could work with people that tell me I have to say something, like in the form of an advertisement. If, like, for example, if I took money from someone and they were like, hey, we want you to promote our beverage, it would be a lie of me to say, I'll never let someone tell me what I have to say. Well, yeah, that's different, right? But as far as editorial control over the content of my show, I am I'm absolutely certain that the people I'll be working with do not agree with everything I think politically, and they don't care. And so I think that won't be a problem. Jess Gerald, thank you so much for $100. Thank you, man. Incredibly generous as always. He says, in 18 months, I'll be living on my car, driving around the country, trying to make a stand-up comedy career and failing miserably, possibly for many years. I'm going to need some normal America to forget the 3 minutes that no one laughed at all. Thank you, Jess Gerald. I used to do a little open mic stand-up myself back in the day. But that's it. I'll still, you're not going to see like a radical change. I'm not going to work for the Daily Wire and all of a sudden I'm going to be like, yeah, we need to send Israel all the money. Like, well, I don't know what, that's not what I said last week. Oh, you're full of it. Like, no, I'm still going to come up with my own opinions. But that's the gist of it. That's sort of the opportunity I'm looking at. So, again, what I will not be doing is talking about actual financial relationships or details of a contract or anything. What I promise to do is be fully transparent anytime that I'm working with any organization or individual when it comes to a financial relationship. And because I do not want to be in the situation where people feel that I've misled them because I was being paid by some organization and then maybe I was less critical of that organization that people thought I should have been or more positive of them. And then it turns out, oh, well, Rob was being paid by them for 2 years. I could honestly say that other than super chats and stuff, I've never been paid by anyone with the exception of I did 2 ads. One was for a vape company or CBD company, and one was for like a PC company. And in both, I made $0 on both of those, but I did do a couple ads for them. But yeah. So yeah, when I start drinking the liquid death, anyways, thanks guys for tuning in. Oh, check this out. I happen to have some Sour Patch Kids. Wow. Sour Patch Kids. Anytime I need that quick pick me up at 11:04 at night, when I'm talking politics, I like to reach for Sour Patch Kids. My personal favorite are the orange ones, but you'll like all the flavors like red, blue, and maybe even green. Sour Patch Kids. Give it a try. Yeah, you would notice if I start selling out, right? So, no, EOD didn't buy 1,000 vapes. No. Yeah, at first they're naughty, then I forgot my ad read there. Oops. But yeah, so I would be transparent about that. But I think everyone, I've talked about this before, right? I think that in my personal preference, and I hope other people agree, is I don't have a problem with anyone left, right, center, whatever, taking money to express their political opinions. I think the 2 areas that it gets shady is if you're not disclosing and if you're changing what you believe because of the money, right? So if you're like, I'm Mr. Conservative, and then all of a sudden you get paid by Progressive Victory, and you're like, never mind, I'm Mr. Progressive. That seems to be a problem. Or if you're not disclosing that you're getting paid by Progressive Victory, but if you're a progressive and Progressive Victory pays you and you're like, yeah, I'm getting paid by Progressive Victory, what's the problem? That I feel the same way. I don't need someone to say, well, exactly how much money did you make? And what exactly were the details of? So you're not going to hear me talk about that. But I will, if I end up working with this group, I will say, hey, I'm working with this group, and here's what our agenda is. So my family security, if I do this full time as a job, is first and foremost. But the other thing is, what I want for this online space is, I think that the ideas that I advocate culturally and politically are best for this country. That's what I think. And I want to see people who I respect and have opinions I respect thrive on the online community and in politics and in culture. And so, what I want to do is be part of a community, particularly of right wing, conservative, populist, however you want to put it. Any of those groups, we're not going to agree with all of them and all those. I want to see those people thrive, and I want to see them crush sort of the establishment type people and the lefty type people that have been dominant on these spaces because of the institutional advantages they had, because of the people that run places like Twitch and YouTube and formerly Twitter gave those people on the left. I want to see equal footing. I want to see people that share my ideology. Maybe it's someone like Lecture Fan. Maybe it's someone like Andrew Wilson. Maybe it's someone like Alex Stein. I want to see those people thrive, and I want to be part of that community. That's what I want. And I want to see that start to make changes culturally and start to make changes politically in our country. That's what I want for this space. That's what I want to be a part of. And I've said from the get-go, if that means that I'm the top dog, fine. But if that means I'm not the top dog, that's fine too. That's absolutely fine with me. So I want to be part of that. And I, by no means, am someone that's like, oh, well, I don't want other people to get big because they'll take an audience from me. I do not feel like that at all. I want to share any good fortune I have with other people. And I sincerely believe I've tried to do that as medium-sized of a streamer as I've been. I think that I've tried to help people that had far smaller audiences me, and I didn't care. And so I never want to big time people. That's not my intent. And I'm hoping, why do I bring this up? Because if I, like someone you see, like, as much as I dislike them, Destiny broke into more of these mainstream spaces like Piers Morgan, and then you see someone like Andrew Wilson that's breaking into those spaces. If I'm able to break into those spaces, I think that means the next person coming up who I appreciate is more likely to break into those spaces, and their voice is more likely to be heard. So that's how I'm looking at this. I'm looking at it like, yes, absolutely. I think it's a unique and great opportunity for me, and I'm going to bet in myself and think that I could do well, right? But I also want this to become a space for the people that I respect, that I think have been given an unfair shake, largely because of algorithm manipulation, demonetization, things like that. I would like to see them get opportunities as well. So, and I think that I think there's people that the people that I might potentially be working with, I think they share that viewpoint. And I think that's one of the reasons that they're willing to take a shot on me. So I would be more than happy to pay that back and hope that that's something that continues to thrive. So last thing I'll say, I'll give a shout out to a couple of streamers. First, I got to give a shout out to BXBullet. BXBullet's been what's the name of it? 764 or something like that. It's like crazy. Like first time I saw BXBullet talk about this crazy like satanic child harming group, right? There was this viral video of this like stepdad that shot this kid, and it was crazy. Then the stepdad like apparently self-harmed afterwards and ended himself, and it was like open and shut, like, oh, this dad's bad. And I remember BXBullet being like, no, this dude was like in this like satanic child harming group, and this stepdad had enough. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't really follow a lot of what she was saying. And then I saw that there was this back and forth, right, where a lot of conservative streamers were like giving her garbage for this. This is all sensationalist and it's garbage. New York Post today, the FBI is making arrest of this group. The BX has basically been a soldier out there herself, calling out this group for like over a year. And BX definitely is always involved in drama and sometimes Maybe she brings it on herself to some degree. I don't know. But I'll say this. I'm privy to some of the things that people have done to her, and it's incredibly heinous. Bringing her family into it and stuff, it's heinous. And, if I'm to believe some of the screenshots she put up, and I have no reason to disbelieve her about some of the threats that she got, like targeting this group and calling them out, it's grotesque. And she's a mom. And so, kudos to her for sticking to her guns and being one of the people that was breaking this story that's now leading to FBI arrests in helping protect children. So kudos to her on that. Also, shout out to Andrew Wilson for apparently did Alex Stein today, and he said some kind words about me. Always appreciated. But him and Rachel are just absolutely crushing it. I can't say enough about Andrew. I think he's one of the nicest people in the space. There's a guy who bet on himself, and it's paying off in spades. So for him, to the first time I met him, he's just like the debate bro guy on Politically Provoked, to now he's built his entire brand. He is basically more prolific, as far as I know, of doing different shows. The dude's traveling across the country. If you follow his X feed, it's like one day he's at a Metallica concert, the next day he's on some university campus debating some, person on like Zionism, and then the next day he's doing a theology debate, and then the next day he's on Piers Morgan's show. I don't know when they have time to sleep, to be honest. So kudos to Andrew. I can't say enough. Like he's absolutely crushing it. Yeah, the Crucible crew is awesome. They've always been kind to me. The show I used to do on the Crucible, the Arena, I'm sure if I asked, they would let me go back and do that show anytime that I saw fit. So good on Andrew for getting these more opportunities. And I know Steven Crowder had some very positive things to say about Andrew, and he did well. I think he did very well on there. And he's an interesting guy. And for all the hate, like, I think it's funny, because me and Andrew both like debating, most of the time, I would say 60% of the time, we're interacting with each other on the space. We're debating against each other. So there's probably an impression for an awful lot of people like Rob and Andrew disagree. We agree on 95% of stuff. We just find it more interesting to argue about the 5% we disagree with. But no, he's a weirdo, but he's our weirdo. He's a good guy. Yeah, Mr. Name says Rob's cool, but he doesn't bring religion into it. Yep, it's true. I don't talk about religion very frequently. Teach their own, though. I'm not saying religion's not important. I just don't talk about it a lot. I certainly could understand that perspective. And there's no hard feelings about that. I think that there's a fine line to thing. What it is the big tent, right? How many people do you bring in? If you're a Christian nationalist, do you want someone like me on your side that's like, well, not really a Christian nationalist, even if I agree with 95% of what you're saying? Maybe not. Maybe you say, nope, you don't pass the sort of ideological test that we think's worthwhile. Maybe. In my perspective, I think that there are certain lines that once people are over those lines, like, for example, if you're just like radically like third-term abortion, I don't care if we could win 5 more seats by appeasing you. To me, that's so demonic. I can't accept it. So if people feel that way about me and some of the issues I believe, that's fair. But I do think there's utility in people talking in different styles and arguing different topics that are pushing for generally the same sort of society. Some people might want someone who's more aggressive, more gregarious. Some people might want someone who's talks calmer and is more analytic. So, to each their own. I don't do a lot of the content that Andrew does because we're interested in different things. So I'm usually focused more on the political sphere of stuff. A lot of his debates are philosophical in nature. So I think that it's a good thing to diversify. I certainly like to listen to people of different, styles and topics that they're talking about. So I hope people find it that way. Yeah, I don't disagree. Me and Andrew talk to each other. So, he's been incredibly busy with his channel, and I've been incredibly busy with life, with my work primarily. But, like I said, I think that I saw the Glenn Greenwald, Andrew Wilson debate on gay adoption. It looks like that might be happening. I like Glenn too. I do. But it'd be an interesting debate. I'd watch it. So, so I think that once I go full time here, which looks increasingly likely to happen, I will be able to have those sort of collaborations with people like Andrew Moore, and other people in the Crucible and other people, Tim Pool's show, things of that nature. The last person that I want to shout out is my tremendous editor, Black Elk. I can't speak highly of him enough. He he's worth far more than I'm able to give him. And unfortunately, even if my channel does take off, I don't know how much more I could, like, it's not like I'll be making way more money, right? If my channel takes off and all of a sudden I'm making $200,000 a year, then yeah, clearly Black Elk is coming along for the ride. But I don't I don't know if I'm quitting my job, what position I'll be in financially. I want to take Black Elk. I wish Black Elk was making 200,000 a month as far as I'm concerned. I think he's tremendous. And I hope that someone sees him that could pay him what he's worth, because he's worth a lot. And so I haven't talked to him yet about this opportunity. I will be talking to him eventually about it. But he's really amazing. He really is. And I just think that he has done so much work to improve my channel. He has done more to improve my channel over the past year than I have. He really has. So that's sort of where we're at. But he's amazing, and I can't say enough about him. I really do appreciate him. If any of you ever have any need for any sort of editing, I don't think he wants to be approached with like any adult films or any editing of that nature. But beyond that, please hit me up in some of my DMs, XDM, Discord, or something like that, and I'll get you in touch with him, because I think that he's just tremendous at what he does. I think his work speaks for itself. Anytime you watch any of my non-live videos, the hilarious thumbnails, the hilarious intros, like he did little things like, I didn't even catch this. When I did that Twitch debate with Connor, and Connor kept calling me the homophobic slur that ended up getting me banned for 30 days, he beeped it out every time and then put a little cigarette, because that word happens to share the term with the British slang for cigarette. I mean, it's amazing. It was just such a funny little inside joke that I don't even know how many people picked up on it. So he's great. There you go, Wheezy. You need an editor? Hit me up. So he may transition to producer if I get big enough. That would certainly be a possibility. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. So I'll have more details as far as full-time streaming, what that would look like what sort of, we're not going to worry about the financials of it at first. I'll be grifting a little more and be like, send me money, but I'm not going to like really focus on like, this is exactly how much money I need to make before I would be forced to go look for another job if I don't make that much. Like we're going to eschew all of that at first. If it comes to that, I would say, hey, you guys have been great, but I do have to supplement this income by getting a job or whatever. And I would let people know that, but that's the gist of it. So look for more announcements of this coming up. Both with, the group that I might be working with and with the nature of my full-time streaming. Once I go full-time, I will find a time that I think works best for streaming that's consistent. That might be earlier in the day. It's more likely going to be later in the day. It's more likely going to start at like 9 or 10, my streams. I think that it would make sense to not necessarily collaborate, but to time it with other people that stream regularly that my audience likes. So like, I don't want to necessarily overlap with like Andrew Wilson's streaming, because I think a lot of people like watching me and Andrew. And if we're both streaming at the same time, it's just unnecessarily splitting that audience. So we'll try to come together as a team, collaborative team, me and all of you in the audience, and find the time that would work best. Maybe that means diversifying. Maybe that means Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I stream at 9 p.m. Tuesdays, Thursdays, I'm streaming at 5 p.m. or streaming in the morning or something like that. But we're going to try to hit those times consistently every week to the best of our ability. That'll be the idea. So, all right. Hey, you guys have been incredibly generous tonight. I will say this. If tonight was any indication, I think I'll be just fine. You guys have been incredibly generous that donated tonight. So I really do thank you a lot. There's going to be less of these, oh, my life, my channel videos going forward. Hopefully tomorrow There will be a little about my life tomorrow because it'll be me streaming after Hank's first T-ball. I'm not so sure it's an actual practice. It might be a meet and greet, but I'm sure I'll have something to say about the Hank man and how his first T-ball experience went. Uh, am I taking super chats, answering questions? If you put a super chat in and ask me a question, I will try my best to answer it. Absolutely, to you. We'll give you a second on that. Um, Yes. EOD, so someone like EOD that I know is going to be around pretty consistently. I need to give editor privileges so that you could help me raid people. Uh, but I would be willing to do. And if you're a streamer that would be interested, once I set up a schedule of hey, maybe you could raid me on a pretty consistent basis, I would love to do that. Absolutely. So uh, it's Nico Pluto, thanks so much for the 20 bucks. Says, I realize it went south. Burke, love him. He's fair and admits when he's incorrect. It didn't really go south for me. I still like John. He really hates Trump, but that's okay. I'd still talk to John. Hopefully that's some again, you have to understand. One, I'm I always feel like I'm imposing on other people. Yeah, it's Zen, I could mod you, no problem. Uh I always feel like I'm imposing. So people are like, hey, you should reach out to Andrew and see if he'll do a stream with you. I'm like, I don't want to impose on him. And I feel the same with like John Burke. But and then also it's like, well, I'm busy. So when would I set up the time? Uh, but now that once I start doing full time, I think that I think that I'll have more opportunity to reach out, even to people like John Burke. And I don't think John's got any hard feelings with me. Uh, did the guy wanted to ask a question? Ask a question. You don't even have to super chat, man. I appreciate if you do super chat, but if you have a question real quick and you want me to answer, I'll try the best of my ability. Did I miss it? I don't see it. Yeah, I like John. John's a good guy. He's funny. I think he's a little bit jaded with Trump, too much to the negative as far as I'm concerned. But I also think it's important people that you trust are actually decent conservative people that have criticisms of Trump or anyone for that matter to hear them out. And so I don't mind it. So DU or however you pronounce your name, I'm gonna head out, man. So I don't know if you're still here. It's been a few minutes. Do I ever look for winger angel investors to help get your feet during transition? Maybe I will. I will say, without naming specific names, I've had people reach out to me. One concern I have is, uh, one concern I have is if people reach out to you and offer large sums of money, do you owe them something, right? And so you you don't want to be in a position where someone's like, "Hey, man, I gave you all that money, so now I need you to do XYZ for me." And I don't want to be in that position, right? But you know, yes, I would take money. Uh, Angel says, Rob, you don't have to feel that way. Andrew said today he wants to do more with you. He just knows you have to work a lot, so he doesn't want to impose them. Yeah, I know. I've talked to Andrew recently, and I know. I'm just neurotic. That's the way I am. I don't like to self promote much. I don't like to bother people and be like, hey, can I do a show? Um, so most people that offer to give you money or give you super chats and stuff, like Jess Gerald, for example, he says I hate owing people. Jess Gerald never once remotely asked me for any. By the way, I'm not when I say ask for something, if someone donated money and was like, hey man, I was wondering if you could like have me on the stream and talk about this, that's different, right? But I'm saying that like sometimes what happens is even if you're a smaller streamer, uh, you end up in like a situation where it's like, well, now you have someone that's like, can I stay at your house for a couple days? And you're like, I've had that happen. I've had someone who sent me some super chats be like, hey, you mentioned you live in Western Pennsylvania. I'll be through the area. Would it be cool if I stay for a week at your house? And I'm like, but I'm at work half the week and it's just like my wife there. It'd be cool. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think it'd be cool. Some stranger I've never met online coming and just hanging out. in my house with my wife while I'm at work. I don't think that's gonna work. And then it's like, well, yeah, you're a jerk, man. I sent you $30. Sorry. So when you're talking larger sums than that, it could sometimes, but most people aren't like that. Crisco, thanks so much for $20. It says Rob from Tokyo. Good to see you're going full time. Hopefully, this means more dabbling on libtards and informative content. I think that's exactly what it'll mean. I'm not saying I won't knock around a right winger here or there, but yeah, I'm a team player. That's certainly the case. So, yeah, you already said I could sleep in your bed. Let me move in with you. No early boy for this guy. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much, guys and gals. I appreciate all of you. So, I'm not quite sure what time Hank's T-Ball's done tomorrow. Also, not to get back into depressing stuff, but the nature of my work situation at this immediate point could mean that you go 5-6 days without seeing me if I end up in a serious medical facility with the person I'm caring for. So prayers are appreciated still for that person that I support. I know he would appreciate it too. And we're going to hope for the best. But if I'm quite honest with you, things have been getting worse. So we're still praying for the best. Thank you so much to everyone who donated tonight that stuck around and listened to this spiel. There's Wicked Wally, dad joke extraordinaire. What's up, Wally? Also, on the arena scoreboard, you see his name there. He's the only one that we screwed up the letters. See the Y on his name's all cattywampus, but I thought it was much deserved for Wicked Wally. So, so it's going to be good. I think you guys are going to like the direction the show goes. And I do appreciate all of you, even those that disagree. I really do. A special shout out to people like Jess Gerald, Mr. Ubercross, that have really stuck with me, donating a ton of money recently. I appreciate it. And everyone else, you guys that have donated money. You guys are great. It's really nice. So stay tuned. I think you're going to like the way the direction goes. I'll have some more updates coming shortly about it. Hopefully I'll be streaming tomorrow evening. And as always, have a good one.